first episode of the Headmaster Help. Here, we dive into different topics to help you get some of your answers for your college and career journey, as well as we would like to spend a little bit of time focusing, discussing your personal development. Today, we are honored to be joined by Palak Agarwal. Palak completed her BA honors in psychology from Delhi University and then completed her master's in clinical psychology from Amity University. Currently, she is pursuing an MPhil in clinical psychology from the National Forensic Science University. She is a UGC NET certified counselor and researcher, a psychologist, and most importantly, a social influencer determined to educate her and help her audience find meaningful ways to improve their mental well being. Welcome, Palak. It is great to have the opportunity to chat with you today.
Thank you so much, Sakshi. It was such a lovely introduction I could ever have. Thank you.
So let's go back in time a little bit. What got you interested in psychology?
Okay, so my journey with psychology started way back when it was even prevalent in India. So apparently, my father, when I was a child, he used to talk about, he used to brief me about the tales of unconscious mind of philosophers. He used to brief me, and he's fond of readings of Osho. He used to talk about philosophers, Aristotle, Socrates, and also my groundwork for psychology actually began from philosophy.
Okay.
So we used to talk about all these tales and very scientific findings about mind, and that's what kind of created some interest at what mind is, what are these thoughts, and what is our cognition basically. Then in 12th, 11th, and 12th, I had the chance to study psychology as a separate discipline, like a subject altogether. So where we had our teachers talking about theories of personalities, theories of intelligence. Then we used to talk about all these divisions of mind, conscious, subconscious. We had these famous theories of Dr. Sigmund Freud, Dr. Carl Jung, all of it in 11th and 12th. Now, since the theoretical groundwork was set, I decided that I want to pursue my career in this field. Now, how did I get into clinical psychology? That is another zone. So when I came in my BA first year,
Yeah.
I had the chance to intern with the doctors of AIMS in Mental Health Foundation India. That was my first internship. And I
Okay.
saw doctors working day and night, day in and day out. They were just working so passionately towards their patients. And they genuinely saw their patients as, not separating mental health from their physical health and viewing it all together. They used to stress upon this fact that mental health is actually very important, more
Yeah.
than you realize it, more than you acknowledge it, and more than you actually uh, more than actually you accept it in the
Yeah.
society. It is very important, and it has a drastic impact on your physical health, on your personality, on your well-being. Everything is correlated. So that's when I developed the keen interest to study clinical psychology, especially in terms of psychopathology, how it emerges, the etiological factors that are behind it, and how, like, since childhood, what kind of childhood traumas plays into a personality shaping. All these things were my major interest. So then I did my bachelor's in psychology. That's when I decided that okay, this is it. I'm going to do MA and I'll plan for MPhil. So I decided it since the very early years of my career. But till now, like it's been 7 years I'm into this field, I feel that I have so much to learn and so much to, grasp. Like it's like miles to go before you sleep.
Yeah.
It's very passionate.
Do you think there is any change? So, like of late, mental health awareness has been increasing in India, which was something which people didn't talk about, a few years back. From your perspective,
Yeah.
has anything changed recently in the way people are approaching these topics?
Certainly, it has changed drastically. It is a very positive wave in our country
Yeah.
to see people realize the importance of mental health, destigmatized, especially in urban areas. It's being destigmatized a lot. People are coming up talking about their mental health issues, how it's impacting their life.
Yeah.
And I feel during the pandemic, both your physical health and your mental health both has a lot to play because it's a very tough period that we're undergoing. It's very bad right now. The current situation
Yeah.
is terrible. So in these times, your mental health also gets impacted. I have myself experienced like a month back or something. My parents were COVID positive. Both of them were like sick and completely ailing. Both of them were bedridden. And every day I used to have some anxiety, some form of anxiety. I used to sleep with anxiety. I used to have sleep issues. Like, what if I sleep for like longer duration and I don't hear my parents suffering in the other room? So I have to be sure. And like all of these started impacting my fooding habits, my health also, and my mental health also. So I could realize that, I'm from this field and I'm having these experiences. So
Yeah.
somebody who is not knowing of such things, like what's been happening around and all, it gets difficult for them to recognize that. So this pandemic, certainly I feel that during pandemic, it is very important that people talk about their mental health, come together, view mental health as a collective spectrum, and then fight it together, like destigmatizing it and laying emphasis on the importance of mental health.
Yes, and you also mentioned that during your internship, your doctors and the people you were working with sort of emphasized the connection between mental health and physical health, right? So the
Yeah.
connection right now of being more social aware of what your mental health is like, because it is a very serious physical health problem as well. So how your mindset is will affect how your body is also reacting to some extent. I was also really interested in the research paper you wrote on the use of social media for body comparison, body image concerns, and self esteem, which was published in the International Journal of Indian Psychology. Can you talk to me a little bit about what inspired your research and what your results were?
Okay. Thank you for mentioning about that research work. It was my master's thesis, and I was so like it was like a year back or something when I started working on that. And what intrigued me towards this domain was that social media is now a part of life. Like,
Yeah,
even if we want to disconnect and all, but either one or some form of the other of social media we are using.
yeah,
I might not be on Instagram, but I'm on WhatsApp. I might not be on Facebook, but I have to have some app just
yeah,
to connect with you. Of course, it's a boon. It has enabled people to connect from the world, to share information, and there are multiple factors which are like it's like a blessing in life.
yeah,
It has created huge business, huge profits, given. I think it has created entrepreneur mindset, and all of it. But coming to certain negative impact of social media, one of the most important and prevalent issue was that people compare themselves on social media.
yeah,
You, I, maybe third person X, Y, Z. We always tend to compare because we're constantly seeing that okay, this person is doing that, this person is doing that. What we don't realize is that it's the part of life and not their entire life.
yeah,
It's a segment that we want to portray, that we want people to see.
yes,
But on the other hand, now seeing the other person in certain shape or certain size impacts my mental health, that why can't I be like her?
yeah,
This need to belong and this need to be uh, in like you need to have this there's a tendency for people to have a need to belong and to be belonging to a homogenized group. Like,
yes,
I should be a part of some category that gives me recognition,
yeah,
that gives me acknowledgement, and that gives me validation. Uh, so that's what I felt, that social media somewhere, of course, it's being used for to display your interests, talents, and all of it. But on the other hand, a lot of us also use it for social comparison, to
yeah,
compare our body images. And I found certain strong implications. I was reading some articles also. So lately, I read this research work. It was done by Crohn's, and it said that social media has created such a drastic impact on body image that people currently report of substance use disorders, body dysmorphic disorders, obsessive compulsive disorders, and anorexia nervosa, which is a serious condition,
yes.
and it needs certain treatment. It needs certain therapy. So, how we use more than social media being that, how do we use it is what impacts us.
Yes.
Am
And
I using it? Yeah, yeah. Please go ahead.
no, no, go ahead. So sorry.
So am I using it the way it's, uh, you know, am I using it the way it's prospering my growth, or am I using it the way it kind of hampers my growth? So that's what impacts it. I strongly believe that. I
Yeah.
think because nowadays we need to rationalize that how should we use it, and rather than comparing ourselves, we should create a world which feels like celebrating the uniqueness of every individual. I am beautiful the way I am. That's what the concept should be about. So I feel that gradually, certainly, changes are emerging, and in the upcoming future, we shall see more positive change.
Fingers crossed on that, because I feel like there is also this thing where the social media algorithm almost works in a way where it sort of promotes the things you search. So like for example, a few days ago I searched about, skincare, certain things about my skin I wanted to sort of change, right? And since then my social media has just been bombarded with ads regarding that. It sort of reinforces the one insecurity or the one thing you are focused on at the point in you.
Yes, yes. So there's a show that I lately saw on Netflix
Yeah.
about how social media creates algorithms of what you search for. And then it creates like a prototype of your search history and all, and then gives you the links and, pictures or like search bars of the things that you've been searching earlier, like related to that, so that you're completely engrossed. Your
Yeah.
attention is not taken away.
Yeah.
Grabbing the attention and then sustaining it is what the tactics of social media creators and all are. So maybe uh, us as a user, we can change the way we've been using it, would be a better way to approach it as like an intervention to
Yes.
deal with such issues.
So, like currently with the lockdown, there is so much, we are very dependent on social media, right? As you mentioned, we have at least one or the other social media app which we are using to connect with the outside world, right? So, how do you suggest we connect via social media in a healthy manner?
Okay. So currently, I feel that since it's the time of pandemic and everybody needs some or the other help, I feel in times of pandemic, social media is a great use. I have seen people of my age sharing information about plasmas, about oxygen cylinders, and all, and they actually help the someone whom they did not even know, right?
Yes.
So it's a connection. Like I'm sitting far off from you, but I might know someone who can actually help your family member to save a life.
Yes.
So I think in this sense, social media is a it's a boon, and people are definitely using it right way. And especially in terms of pandemic, or people who are not using social media in such ways, I would strongly suggest that, you know, at this point, it is very important that overlooking everything, you firstly, especially for your near and dear ones, look out. Go out, just message them, just once message them if they're under COVID or something. Hey, are you okay if you need something or not? Because apparently, a lot of us have a lot of friends on social media, but when it comes to real friends, we're actually missing out on people. That's one thing we can do.
So you spoke about, how social media can be used positively right now. I was just wondering, like, right now with news and the amount of content you have on social media, it is also impacting people negatively, right? Because you're continuously reading these sad news. So how do you sort of disengage with that and figure out when social media is impacting you negatively versus when you're actually using it more productively?
Yeah, certainly. Social media, like when reading this news and all about Corona, and then it's sadness and grief all over, and I can't like ignore it, because ignoring is somewhat, I feel it's, in my personal opinion, I feel that if you ignore it, somewhere you're just denying the reality. You
Yeah.
cannot live in denial. It's the reality, it's out there. So maybe you know it. Now what can I do? Since I cannot stop the bad, at least I can promote the good. Just by sharing a post, about plasma, about oxygen cylinder availability and all, which most of us, a lot of people are actually doing it. They're sharing it, they've created NGOs and all. I think altruism can somehow increase the positive emotion.
Yeah.
So that's what I feel, that in such ways we can utilize social media, some form of altruism. And at night before going to sleep, maybe you're listening to some motivational TED talk, maybe you're doing some kind of a painting, some kind of a music, just for like a temporary distraction, just to have a sound sleep. Because
Yeah.
sleep is essentially very important. I've realized it in a couple of days. And your mental health and your physical health has to be very, 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 intact.
Okay. Is disengaging from reading these things constantly and sort of taking that time for yourself in any manner you want, and making sure you're having positive vibrations and influences through TED Talks and all these things around you.
Yeah, like temporary, temporarily, just before you go to bed, because certainly we cannot deny what's happening around. It's been happening around, and we need to solve it out. So taking a part as a solution maker, and also like keeping your mental health and physical health intact is what I feel, because but it's our people, it's our country,
Yeah.
and also keeping your health intact.
Yeah. We need to do our part in helping our country.
Yeah,
But I was
certainly,
also
certainly.
wondering, since that we are a college and career counseling firm, a lot of our students right now who have applied abroad, right, are still waiting to hear back from their universities about their decisions. Even though I think it is a little bit self-indulgent right now when there is so much going on, but it is also important to sort of focus on yourself, your future, your career, and your growth plan. Right. So a lot of them are seeing that, their peers may be accepted to a university from which they haven't heard back yet, which definitely impacts you differently when you're all isolated. You cannot meet people in person, and you're just seeing other people post stories online about, hey, I got in at this university. Hey, I just got this much scholarship, or all these achievements. It makes you a little bit insecure about your futures and your career plans right now. How do you tackle all of these emotions?
Certainly, certainly. There's no denying the fact that the first and foremost reaction is going to be of sadness, of anxiety, full of anger and resentment, that you're going to feel that, okay, my fear got through, but why did I not get through? Why God has to be unfair to me? So these thoughts are very natural. How we deal with it is what makes a difference.
Okay.
So I might get these thoughts, you might get these thoughts, XYZ might get these thoughts. But how, till what time are we bearing these thoughts? Like, is it hampering my studies? Is it hampering the way I'm functioning at home? Maybe like I'm doing some kind of activity or something, but I'm not able to do because I'm constantly thinking of all these things. Is it impacting my relations with my family and my friends, that I've taken an off and I'm not talking to that? So I feel that if you get these thoughts, and what you can do is to acknowledge them. Okay, firstly, I've been feeling it.
Yeah.
I know it's wrong to feel it. I know it's unjust and all, but I've been feeling it. So that helps you to sort of gradually rationalize. Like, okay, I'm feeling it. Why am I feeling it? What went wrong? What actions did she take that I did not? So that helps you to contemplate, give it a thought that, okay, she might have studied a bit more, she might have worked a bit more harder, or maybe the way she had written her SOPs, because I heard SOPs are like
Yeah.
exceptionally important. So where did I lack? I need to think about it, and understanding that everybody has their own journey. Like
Yeah.
everyone in the world has their own journey, and something is meant for you, which is very philosophical in nature. And of course, a person, an adolescent, or anybody as an adult also, if it happens, it's very difficult to feel that. Like once you have those thoughts, उस time ऐसा नहीं, you can't rationalize. But after some time, after and after a lapse of maybe 1 hour or something, you're just contemplating. Then you're writing down the possibility. Okay, where did I actually miss? Now, what can I learn from the other person? Like, where did she get those bonus points?
Yeah.
Right? So once you break that barrier, that okay, I'm going to learn. That's the moment you become flexible, and that's when this mirror of you, that oh my god, she got through and I did not, goes away. What I need to learn, maybe because that person would have also had their own journey. They might be working very hard, studying day in and day out. So becoming flexible first thing, acknowledging your own emotions, and I feel that uh, also taking actions like what did I miss? What did I miss here? What went wrong here? Taking actions before that, preparing for your exams in the way that okay, you should take holistic approach, right? That I need if this is my exam, I need to study from here, making a plan, implementing it, and then kind of evaluating it. Like these were the answers that were wrong, these were the answers that were right, and then sort of comparing it like okay that I need to work on these areas, these are my strengths, these are my weaknesses, these are my potential abilities, and these are my shortcomings. So maybe increasing my abilities, like making it as my strengths, like more stronger and stronger points, and overcoming my weakness. And then I'm sure like if it's not happening today, if it's not happening tomorrow, maybe after some time there's something meant for you. So I think we need to acknowledge that okay, this is my journey. Maybe God wants me to learn something. I think peaks does not teach you as much as failures teach you.
Yeah.
Because failures, I've heard that it gives you depth, it gives you experience, and that's what counts, right? That if I, because I remember I was applying for many entrances, and I, like, one after the other, I was getting sometimes the entrance would cry, and then I would be rejected in the interview, and I was like, what is wrong? Where am I going wrong? So every entrance that I had missed, I just like it. I had a drastic reaction. I would cry. I would just howl and all. But after some time, I was like, okay, maybe this is what I had to say in the interview, but I did not. Okay, maybe this is the requirement. Next time, I need to overcome that. And also, it made me realize that okay, failures are part of life.
Yeah.
You cannot run away from it. You can't every time succeed. And failures will teach you a lot. Failures will teach you how to stand alone. Failures will teach you how to fall and then rise. So
Yeah.
all these things, I think, coming together because of certainly I had a couple of failures back since my B entrances, MA entrances, and all. So I've also been the part of that group that I feel that okay, she got through, I did not, and all. But now coming into MPhil and then sort of having these conversations and all makes me realize that okay, had it not been happened, I would not have realized it.
Yeah.
So
I couldn't agree more with it. Like, I feel like people always focus on their success, especially on social media. You only post your success. You don't really post all your
right,
failures on there, right? But to reach wherever
right.
you are, we go through multiple failures. You
We
don't
go
just
through my
you
failures,
don't just
certainly.
and also I really like your point about time. Like, we all have our different journeys. We may all end up at the same place, or we may end up at completely different places, but our journey to that place may be drastically different, even if it's the same place.
Yeah, certainly, certainly.
In our conversation last week, we also were talking about, the difference between feedback and validation. I thought that was really interesting. And since we are talking about, getting that sort of validation from social media, can you just talk to us a little bit about what's the difference and how do you decide when you're seeking which?
Okay. So the difference which I feel about feedback and validation is that when we seek feedback, so we're kind of into that zone that we might receive some appreciation, we might receive some criticism. I need to work on my criticism. I need to see what went wrong. I need to evaluate. I need to understand that there are certain areas that I need to work on. It can't be perfect all the time. But I feel when it comes to validation, so the question comes, am I doing it right?
Yeah.
Am I doing so that's like a validation. Am I right? When you say that, am I doing it right? Right now? So this is validation. Like you're seeking it because you need a social approval. So feedback is kind of constructive in nature, but validation can be destructive because if certainly certain number of people they're constantly providing validation and all, but the day they stop,
Yeah.
you have a difficult point dealing it with them. Then you're like, what do? Now I don't have people to give me validation.
Yes.
So I feel feedback and validation, there's a very thin line of difference, but we need to understand it and acknowledge it before it actually, starts to take a toll on us. So this is what I feel about feedback.
So like validation, we typically get it from people we respect, like whose opinion we respect. So for
Yeah,
example, I respect my parents' opinion a lot. And I often ask them the same thing which you mentioned, like, if I'm doing something, am I doing this right? Because I
yeah.
want their validation to some extent about the things I'm doing. Is that different from seeking social validation from others, or does it still fall under the same category?
Okay, social validation could be extending from your family members to your peers, to your out group and all that, your neighbors, extended family, friends and all. And parental validation, it could be like, so validation begins from home only. That's what I feel like.
Okay.
Uh, like we start to say that, okay, am I doing it right? Mama, is it right? Is it right? Is it right? But I feel that we need to kind of modify the language. The day we modify the language, it will change the thought process. Changing it to a bit, what can I improve in this area?
Yeah.
Like you can just ask that, Mama, what can I improve in this area? Then she might, I know 24 hours is not possible, but maybe in areas or in certain situations where it's essential for you to improve, you can definitely ask, do I need to improve in these areas? And if I have to, can you please brief me about it? Will help you to kind of cognitively restructure your thoughts and then change your behavior also accordingly. More than that, that am I doing it right? Is it right? Oh, it's right, right? So it kind of becomes that, okay, the other person also has to say, yeah, beta, it's right. Yeah, my friend, it's right.
Yeah.
That's the difference that it comes to feedback and validation.
Yeah, so like even when you're approaching this conversation with your parents, instead of asking for that, oh, can you just approve of what I'm doing, making more like, can you tell me how I can improve what I'm doing? So asking for
Yeah,
guidance and experience instead of asking for just an straight out approval.
approval, right?
So you brought this really nice concept of all of these things. So like parental validation and peer validation all fall under social validation. So like
Right.
sometimes we also seek validation for ourselves. Like we are not asking somebody externally, but we use social media to maybe post something or do something to self-validate, right? Uh,
Yeah.
so what's the major difference between self-validation and social validation? And is self-validation okay, or how do we navigate those waters?
Certainly. So when we seek self-validation, so maybe, okay, so these two concepts are very much interconnected also, they're intertwined, and somewhere there's a thin line difference. So social validation and self-validation comes into play when we are like dealing into social media. Now I post something not because that it's kind of representing my thought and my opinion. It's kind of representing a thought that makes me fit into a particular category. So that's when this social media validation comes into play. And then when I get a hit a like or a like a button pressed on my social media that, okay, you're doing it right, okay, that's good. So you just feel that, okay, I'm fitting into a category, okay, I'm belonging to a certain category. It's a positive reinforcer, but to what extent? To the extent that I compromise my individuality? No. But I have seen certain people on social media and the way they use it. So they represent what they're actually passionate about. And that's what people like to hear and enjoy. They don't care if it's like people's validation. They represent that this is my inner world and I'm putting it out there. This is my passion. And that's what people like to hear and enjoy more than seeking validation. Because certainly you've taken birth on this planet, you're growing and all, you're coming at you're coming across as an individual.
Yeah.
You are developing your own individuality and you're just crushing it because I have to fit in. So maybe differing from the fit in category,
Yeah.
maybe differing from this urge to belong to a particular group can actually help us promote self growth, celebrate individualities and uniqueness and differences. more than that. Okay, everybody is doing it, so I have to do it. What you want to do it, how you want to use your social media to display what you like. Maybe I might like apple today, but because everybody is liking oranges, I put oranges or mangoes out there. But I enjoy eating apple, so why can't I put apple? But honestly, there are certain people, there are certain number of people who are using social media to portray their passion. And every I've seen like the comments and all, people make such comments that I what I really like about your page and all is that you represent passion. You represent passion. You represent what your life is about. You're unique. You're natural. So I think using social media in an authentic manner to portray what you are rather than portraying what you're trying to be is what makes a difference.
Yeah. So I like in society, I see there is a lot of these things which we're doing online, which you mentioned, saying things or posting things in a certain manner to fit in, which sort of fall into our offline life as well, right? When we are interacting with our friends, with our families, we sometimes say things which we may not completely align with in order to not be an outcast, if I may use that
Yeah.
word. So how do you think, is that also a form of validation if it's like not on social media that you're seeking in order to belong to a certain group, or would that fall under something else?
Certainly, it would fall under validation, seeking approval, the need to belong and all. But again, to what extent am I doing it that I'm compromising my own individuality? It's kind of I personally feel that takes away my own identity.
Yeah.
So
How do you course correct in this situation? So like when you are, sort of you realize that, okay, this is maybe not something I'm aligning with, but maybe I'm saying this because, people around me are saying this, and which is impacting my mindset right now. So how do you course correct in that situation?
okay, so taking an example, if it's like a real life conversation. So maybe if you're sitting in a circle and everybody is having certain opinions and you differ from that, so you can just say that, hello everybody, I'm just differing on this opinion. In my personal opinion, I feel that this is the thing. I respect each of y'all's opinion, but I differ on this point.
Yeah.
And there's a reason and there's a rationale that I provide because why I differ and all, explaining your point of view, and then taking others' perspective also. You should be able to take that. That's one of the most important things. Just because you feel a certain way, you cannot be aggressive about it. Being flexible is the utmost important thing.
Yeah.
So I feel that, but okay, please provide me with the feedback that what you feel is because your feelings, your opinions are also equally important. So laying emphasis on both yourself as well as others' approach towards you, and then amalgamating it, then evaluating that okay, if it's like how can I improvise my thoughts in certain areas? How do I maybe like evaluate it? How do I recognize it? And how do I accept others' opinion? Accepting others' opinion and putting forth your own opinion. I feel these two things are essentially important. That that helps you to kind of belong to the group also and develop your own identity as well.
So, like, you may accept somebody's opinion, but you're always afraid that, a person may isolate you because they do not agree with your opinion, right? So, how do you approach that feeling inside of you when you're talking to somebody and you're like, I don't want to be isolated, or judged for my opinion? So, how do you approach those conversations?
Right. So as I just mentioned that you're just stating that okay, I respect everybody's opinion, and your opinion is of your own, and here I am that I'm representing my own opinion. I think to be having a healthy discussion, we need to be saying it out loud that you know this is my opinion. I feel that this is so, and to actually kind of discuss about it, we need to be accepting and open minded.
Yeah.
That oh, you're just stating it, like you're just verbalizing it. That okay, don't because I feel this way, don't isolate me because this is my opinion. You
Yeah.
just say it to the person that don't isolate me because of course that this is my opinion and we can differ.
Yeah.
We can have a point of difference, but that doesn't mean that it hampers our relationship, right? because opinions are subjective in nature.
Yeah.
I might feel something, you might not. But to have a healthy discussion, to have self growth and the growth of and a collective growth, we need to discuss about it. We just verbalizing it to the other person, and you just feel that I respect you. You should just begin from the fact that I respect your opinion and I'm trying to understand your opinion as well. I'm trying to look at things from your perspective. After looking at things from your perspective, I feel this is my opinion. You can also try coming. You can also try step into my shoe, look at things from my perspective. How do you feel about it? You can tell me, and then we can further on discuss and find out the points of difference, find out the points of similarity. And if we're differing, why are we differing? How do I feel about it? How do you feel about it? And maybe we can create something new out of it. So the other person also gets prepared. Okay, he or she is now thinking of the paradigm that okay, this person is ready to discuss it. This person is ready to accept my opinion as well. This person is not imposing his or her opinion, not becoming aggressive, but rather you're just in a very, very respectful manner presenting your opinion.
So
That's
making
what I
sure
feel.
you're like letting the other person know that regardless of this point where we have differing opinions, I respect you and your opinions as an individual.
Yeah. And our relation is different. Our opinions, our subjective opinions are different, making a difference in that. I
Thank you
think
so
that's the
much,
thing.
Palak. That was really illuminating. Just for closing out, I was wondering if you have any advice for our students who, are looking to just attend university in this fall, hopefully on campus.
Okay. So, firstly, I would like to congratulate them and then wish them all the best because it's like a very important years of their career, and I'm sure that since I just made a point that everybody has their own journey, just relax, enjoy your life, and I'm sure each one of them in your institute will, I think, certainly in some or the other way will develop their uniqueness. But I essentially feel that more than anything, just love yourself and just love your individuality and value it. So that's what my last words to them would be. That, and I would certainly would like to proceed with further sessions. And if they have any query regarding this, they can just email me. My email ID is illuminatingmind05@gmail.com, or they can direct message me on Instagram. My username is illuminatingmind underscore. So that's
Make sure to also drop those details down in the information section. Thank you again, Palak,
okay.
for this very
Thank you so much, Sakshi.
I wish you all the best for your endeavors and thank you again.
Thank you so much, Sakshi. It was such a lovely conversation and taking a temporary distraction from from books and all and just talking about life is what is very like encouraging. So thank you. I really had a nice time talking to you about it. I just love the platform that you're sharing with others. It's really nice.
Thank you so much.